Here are the top 5 altcoins that will double your portfolio now. The ones behind me are obviously the ones mentioned in this video, but guys, of course, in my usual fashion, I'm not going to just list these projects for you. We're going to break them down and find out why I'm so bullish on their roadmap for 2023, and also run over some stats as well as minimum price predictions as well. So let's begin with the first project. Now we're going to rank this in order of market cap sizes. So therefore, of course, we're talking about Stellar XLM first. So the current market cap is about $4 billion, but don't let that kind of get in your head and persuade you that it's a bad project or it's too late, because there's a lot of room to grow here for XLM. Okay, the remaining supply, yes, is 45%. So that means about 22.5 billion tokens are still held and waiting to go into circulation, and it's all controlled by one entity. But this, of course, is going to be very, very controlled. So there's nothing to worry about here. These guys do not want to tarnish their brand. It's crazy for me to say that 45% still to go into circulation, but not to worry. Yes, that kind of sounds crazy, but I do believe that over time, you guys will see firsthand what I'm talking about here. Okay, so the narrative that XLM plays into, right? This is important to identify because obviously in 2025, we're not going to be really going through the whole waterfall effect people, used to lean on essentially for these bull runs, right? What we're moving into is narrative plays, right? AI might pop off, payments might pop off, layer 2s might pop off, and then you'll find projects shoot up in price, and Bitcoin might still not be at its all-time high yet, and these projects will never get to the all-time highs ever again, because in these narrative runs, that's when these individual projects perform their best, if that makes sense. So it's very important we recognize what these are, because when these sort of narratives pop up, we can begin to take profits on these sort of projects. So in XLM, right, the most prominent, obviously, it is a payment network. It's also a layer 1 and heavily in DeFi, but if DeFi has a season, it might not really benefit from that, of course. Now, the minimum price prediction I believe XLM can go to here is about $1. Again, minimum I believe it'll definitely go to. The $35 billion market cap. Okay, nothing's guaranteed. Of course, nothing is financial advice here. That's just my personal opinion. Now, if we come on CoinMarketCap, you'll see firsthand that Stellar has had a recent pump, right? It was down to about 7, pretty much 8 cents, right? And it's pumped up to now where we are at about 15 cents. Had a massive run because of the XRP news, quite obviously. But guys, don't be disincentivized. This project is still grossly undervalued. If we click all, you can see here that, there's been multiple times in the past where XLM has been a lot higher than this, but the most important thing is where it'll go in the future, right? XLM is definitely one of those projects that will benefit from multiple different narratives that are going to move primarily into 2025 and be really, really high and powerful in 25, but also 2030, which is when this project will truly unlock, okay? And most of us aren't really thinking on that sort of time frame. I get it. So again, I believe XLM can see definitely excellent growth this year because of its roadmap, right? So we can see here they've put a very comprehensive strategy out here for 2023, focusing heavily on utility, right? Which is very important for a utility-based network. So they focus on a few things here. They mentioned 3 particular building blocks that they're going to work on this year. And those things include innovation, builders, and also build trust, okay? So they're working on their, layer 1, essentially their Web3 ecosystem, right? Which is pretty much their Soroban layer, which is where all these DeFi applications can be built. They're working on scaling and decentralization. So guys, what I'm trying to say here is look at Stellar this year, because I definitely do think it can have explosive potential coming into, late this year, because as some of these things do begin to come out, and obviously these events and to happen, we do see quite a bit of money flow into the projects themselves. Next on the list, we have Mina Protocol. Mina is one of my favorite projects, and you'll see in a minute just how intense their roadmap is. It's one of the reasons why I'm so bullish on this project for the short and long term, because when these things come out, it's going to be an absolute game changer. We have to almost front run the news, okay? So Mina right now has about a $405 million market cap, so not that large. There is about 5.7% of the total initial distribution still left to vest, which actually isn't that much. Now, some of you might be a bit concerned because it is inflationary. It's infinitely inflationary, right? And there's about 7% inflation year on year from here. That's very, very healthy, okay? That's actually good because it supports the network growing, okay? It has to pay its miners and validators some way. And the narratives that Mina's in particularly, primarily, is privacy, okay? Very, very heavily on the privacy sort of application of crypto, which is good because I believe it'll be one of the key powerhouse narratives moving into 2025 and especially the future as the world gets constricted more and more with this centralized totalitarian sort of landscape, okay? It's also layer 1, ZKPs, and Oracle. Oracle is an upgrade coming out for Mina that's going to literally change the damn game. So be very, very eyeful on these sort of narratives if you are invested in Mina. And the price prediction, I believe, at a minimum will go to about $12, aka $16 billion market cap. I'd like to briefly interrupt this program with a very special announcement. Guys, if you wanted to support all the hard work I put into making these videos for you, then there's 2 links down below I'm going to suggest you take a look at. The first is a sign-up link to BitGet, which is one of the best exchanges in the space. These guys have a $300 million user protection fund and proof of reserve, so they're one of the safest exchanges and is the one I personally use for all my crypto investments. And for you non-traders out there, for you guys like me who prefer to invest and acquire the most important information and from the most reputable sources, then Token Metrics have also sponsored this channel, guys. They've offered you guys a free subscription to their basic plan, which is typically worth $20 a month or basically $200 a year. So please, if you take your investing seriously and want the most up-to-date information, go check out the links down below, guys. I've got you covered, and thank you for supporting me. Now, with that said, back to the video. And so a bit different to XLM, Mina right now is the cheapest it pretty much has been since the start of the bear market, okay? As you can see, 1 year, it's been nothing but down, down, down. And if we click all, again, it's even more down, right? Because it pretty much launched at the last bull market, right? So it's a fantastic time to buy, in my opinion. I got in an ICO at 25 cents to give you guys some indication of, actually, this price right now is not even a 2x up from when I got in, right? At the roadmap, as I promised, right? Some massive events coming out. We're not looking for the future sort of events. We're looking for 2025. And over here, we've got this really important upgrade, okay? So this is full node in browser. Yes, you can run Mina as a full node in your browser, which is huge. We also have this, which is going to be massive as well, bringing lots of people in. ZK apps on the mainnet, which pretty much is like their smart contract layer as well. We also have ultra low latency. That's not too important, but we do have instant finality possibly coming up here as well, which if it does come out in 2023, I guarantee you right now, it's going to have massive, massive demand. And of course, get this, trustless interoperability with Ethereum. Therefore, you can run Ethereum applications within Mina itself. So essentially, Ethereum dApp can interact with Mina that are virtually in the dApp itself. It's incredible sort of stuff. And there is huge, huge events coming out for Mina this year. Now, Moonbeam is very, very similar to Mina, and I'll explain to you why in just a second. But these guys here right now are a $157 million market cap. Therefore, it is, of course, the 3rd smallest project on today's list. Now, the supply remaining is about 30%, okay? So it's almost there, but not quite. And some of you, again, might be a little bit disincentivized because there is a 5% infinite inflation rate. Now, I must say, Moonbeam does, I think, have about a 70% burn rate on each transaction as well. So it will eventually become deflationary as the network does grow. This is a really, really good economic structure, at least in my opinion. Okay, now the narratives to look out for here, obviously, for those who know a bit about Moonbeam, interoperability, and layer 2, as well as I've put DOT in here. Now, I don't know if there will be a so-called, polka dot narrative in 2025, but if there is one for the parachains, right, I definitely do think Moonbeam will probably see the most sort of demand coming out of that narrative itself. Now, the minimum price I see Moonbeam going to in the next bull market is $4.50, aka a $5 billion market cap. Now, I must say for everyone watching this, the price predictions I've given do take into consideration the increase in supply as well. I haven't just multiplied the market cap, okay? It's very important we do that. So I promise you that it'd be very similar to Mina, and it is, right? Okay, if we have a look on the coin market cap sort of trading in the last 12 months, guys, it is pretty much very, very, very close to its all-time low, okay? So yes, now is good as a time as ever to purchase this project. And if we come have a look at the chart, a lot of you might see this chart, think to yourselves, this is a rug pull or this is a bad project. That's a common theme we see in crypto with people that don't really know too much about utility and too much about how projects develop. And honestly, some of this is to do with bad token distribution investing, okay? So this is completely normal. This will be completely skewed. Now, I do think that, again, Moonbeam on the high side of life might see a price a lot higher than $11. It really does depend, but definitely don't sort of take this as it's a rug pull, if you will. Now, if we come over here, there really isn't any roadmap events because Moonbeam essentially is completely community governed right now. So there isn't like a roadmap event to come out, but of course there is the foundation and there is things happening in the back end, like the somewhat recent news that Uniswap v3 is now moving over, or at least porting over to Moonbeam, which pretty much means because Uniswap's a pretty universal DEX that all that sort of traffic coming in on Polkadot and Polkadot associated networks, if it does flow in, it's going to flow in through Moonbeam essentially to interact with Uniswap. So that's a really, really big news in my opinion. And that's why so many people were extremely bullish when this news initially came out. Project number 4 is now Flux. I'm a big proponent of Flux. I think this project's got a lot of legs to stand on here, and it's going to really prosper in the coming years, okay? So the market cap for Flux is at $122 million. So yes, it actually is relatively small for the quality of the project. Now, the supply is about 20% left to, go into circulation, but that's all fair mined. It's essentially a proof of work network. So it's all coming out slowly, all fairly distributed, okay? So it is also fixed as well, which is fantastic to know. There will be a limit to this. So obviously there is no inflation for you people scared of inflation out there. Now, the narratives are going to be distributed cloud computing, of course, and also storage, because Flux essentially is a network that allows nodes to run on it, right? It's like Amazon Web Service, it's like Google Cloud, it's like Microsoft Azure, so on and so forth, but completely decentralized. It's a massive pivot that could happen here in the future for Flux, again, depending on if the world goes into this massive totalitarian state, okay? Now, the minimum price I see Flux going to in 2025 is $3, aka a $1.3 billion market cap. Now, I must be completely transparent here. I think it'll probably go a lot higher than that, but it does, of course, depend on any sort of events that do come out between now and then. And just like most of the projects so far on this list, now is a fantastic time to buy. Guys, it just is an ongoing theme, right? We're looking at good times to buy, and we're going to come back to this point in 2025 and be like, wow, I wish we just bought in at this time. Now, of course, this video isn't financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy these projects now, but of course, if you're someone who is interested, then yeah, now is a damn good time to look at Flux, I'll tell you that. If we go all here, yes, Flux has been a hell of a lot lower, but I don't think we'll really see too much price, prices going too much lower than this. Again, matter of fact, if we're talking about the whole entire bear market till now, this is basically the best time to buy Flux, under 40 cents. Now, if we're talking about the roadmap events, there really isn't anything that sticks out to me. We have some important updates like private Docker, for example, and proof of useful work, POC start, these sort of things that aren't really going to bring in the massive crowds to make it sort of flourish. But what I'm hoping for here and what I'm thinking could definitely happen is a rush of regulation or something happening where obviously a whole heap of these existing centralized cloud service providers, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they start to close down access to crypto networks, and therefore people start to move over to Flux as a decentralized alternative, which could be huge. Plus also storage is a massive narrative coming in 2025, and I think Flux definitely hits a nail on the head there. And last, but definitely not least, Versity. Versity is a little bit of a different play here. As you can see on this list, I'm trying to add in a few different projects here to mix things up to essentially, if you were someone to, hypothetically speaking, buy all these projects pretty much today, you'd be diversified quite well. Now, Versity is tackling, again, different narratives. We'll get to that in just a second. But right now, it's a micro cap, okay, which is fantastic as a sort of riskier play, okay? So the market cap right now is about $42 million. And the supply is about 50% left, sort of going into circulation. So it is the highest on this list, but don't worry, there's again, fixed supply here. And I want to say, as we'll see in a second, Versity actually has a quite skewed sort of circulations chart essentially, right? Because they have about 90 billion tokens that aren't actually publicly traded tokens. They're on a private network that can't actually be transferred over. Okay, so CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko have gone back and forth with this project multiple times now. And so CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko refuse to actually alter to the correct information, okay? So yes, there is only 20 billion or 20.31 billion tokens actually available to be used and traded for Versity, and that's why there's about 50% left in circulation, at least to go into circulation. And these tokens are held within one entity, just like XLM, and that is the foundation. But just remember, this is specifically for the growth of Versity. If they sold all their tokens and dumped on the market, one, they wouldn't get a select price. That obviously does fall down. And second, they're going to tarnish their brand, okay? And they do have some important names behind them already, and that is not going to be a good story, and they probably will all go to jail, right? So let's move on here. So the narrative itself is ad fraud, AI, and gaming, right? So we're obviously diversifying quite largely here, and the minimum price prediction I see this project going to in 2025 is 6 cents, aka $750 million market cap, which I believe is very feasible. So Versity is down about 26% since the start of the year. And yes, look, as you can see here, it has definitely been higher. I do believe that, yeah, Versity pretty well is a good time to buy, at least in my opinion. I mean, you can never time the bottom exactly in these projects. A lot of them are coincidentally at very, very good times to buy. I do think if you are someone who wants a dollar cost average into this project, then yes, you probably won't see it fall anything lower than, I'd probably say about 35 cents or, whatever that might be, 0.3 of a cent, essentially, right? 1/3 of a cent. So I think it's a great project, in my opinion. Now, there is obviously a lot of room for the project to grow. Micro caps are a lot more dangerous. And of course, there are more uncertainties, but I do definitely think that, yeah, we definitely are at a good time to buy here. Only a 4x up since inception, okay? So in terms of the roadmap events, guys, there really isn't too much. I must be 100% transparent with you here. I'm not going to lie to you and say there's a massive sort of event coming up, but because it is a micro cap project, there is, of course, that massive room to grow. I mean, a 2x more or less speaking, is about a 40 or $80 billion market cap, essentially, right? So yeah, I definitely do think some of these events are, good for the project, but they aren't really those sort of events that are going to draw in huge crowds to go, wow, this is massive events coming up. It's by the news, essentially, right? And so with that said, guys, I hope you have enjoyed today's video. If you haven't known about these projects before, don't worry. I'll leave all links down below to individual reviews I've done on them so you can be a lot more informed. Of course, you should never just leave this as your research. I know I've definitely been there. It's very easy to do. Make sure you do some more digging and not just take one person's advice. Guys, thanks again. Appreciate all of you. Please like the video if you have enjoyed. Subscribe. I do 2 videos every single day, and take good care. Talk to you soon. Bye.